Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Textury. Today we are jumping back in time to 17th century. We have traveled back in time to 17th century before. If you've listened to the first episode, we've already covered some criminal cases from 17th century. Now this time we'll be talking about criminally bad recipes. Now, when we think about looking for ideas for dinner or perhaps trying to find a natural and homemade solution to a minor inconvenience like a toothache or hair that is not as shiny as we would want it to be, we usually head to Google. I always find it fascinating to mentally go back in time and just ask yourself a question. How did they do it back then? How was information circling back then? Where did people read about stuff? There were newspapers in 17th century, but they didn't quite work the way modern newspapers do. It wasn't like a source of information. It was mostly political, social, philosophical commentary. It wasn't like fun articles and tips. It looked like short books that you would regularly buy. So it would just be smart people, educated people having opinions. So basically podcasts, but in a written form. It wasn't really a place to get your information from, so your best bet was word of mouth. But when it comes to recipes, it is obviously difficult to memorize them and memorize many of them, and especially if you just don't use them often. Like maybe you had 2 or 3 favorite recipes, but the rest of it would be difficult to remember it all. So they came up with books that collected all the recipes that were going around, be it for food, for household chores, or cleaning supplies, beauty or natural remedies. All of that would be in one book. And at the time, obviously, the responsibility for all of these sat on female shoulders, so the books were primarily directed towards women, which is also very visible in the way they were named, because half of those books have the word lady or ladies in the title. It's like The Lady's Secret or The Lady's Cabinet. These books were not a 17th century invention. They did exist in the 16th century as well. Now, I don't know about earlier centuries because I'm not specialized in those eras, but the earliest examples I have seen are 16th century, but we are focusing on the 17th century ones, which were like pretty developed. Most of these books didn't really have like a set author that would write all of it up. It was most likely a couple of people working on them, and they're more of a compilation of well-known ideas and recipes than just a book. And a lot of them pretend to be word of mouth or secret ideas that were compiled by someone. So for example, the first one that we'll be reading from is called The Lady's Cabinet Opened, and it's from 1639. So it's pretending to be a compilation of recipes that ladies of the era would use, which was probably a case, at least with the cooking recipes, but I'm not so sure about the medical ones, especially since they're a little different in each book. So The Lady's Cabinet Opened starts off pretty mild, with recipes for things like the best clotted cream or instructions on how to make almond biscuits. So it all sounds pretty normal. And to me, there is always something really comforting about the fact that people always like good food. People always like to have their sweet treat, and it's really cute. But before we move on to other recipes, let me just note that one of the cooking recipes is titled To Make Almond Milk. And at first I was like, oh my god, go vegans! But the recipe is as follows. To make almond milk, take a rib of mutton or veal, or rather a chicken, boil it in fair water, put thereto French barley, a fennel root, a parsley root, violet leaves, strawberry leaves, and cinquefoil leaves, and boil them all together till the meat be overboiled. Then strain out the liquor from the rest. While they are boiling, blanch a proportion of almonds, answerable to the liquor, beat them well in a clean stone mortar, and then grind them therein with rosewater and sugar. And when they are well ground, put in all your liquor by little and little, and grind with them, till they be all well compounded. Then strain it into a fair glass and use it at your pleasure. Why? Is it like broth with lots of herbs and then almonds and strawberry leaves? The wildest thing I've ever read, and it's only the beginning, baby. So here's a recipe that is really interesting, and I actually kind of want to try it, but it's called To Make Snow. Take a quart of thick cream and 5 or 6 whites of eggs, a saucer full of sugar finely beaten, and as much rose water. Beat them all together, and always as it rises, take it out with a spoon. Then take a loaf of bread, cut away the crust, set it in a platter, and a great rosemary bush in the middle of it. Then lay your snow with a spoon upon the rosemary and to serve it. Like, that genuinely sounds good. Eggs, sugar, rose water, that actually sounds good, but some of them are just preposterous. The whole book starts off with various food recipes, and then it quickly turns to recipes for various remedies. Like this one, for a pain of ache in the back, which is definitely something I struggle with, even sitting right now. So the recipe is as follows. Take neep, archangel, parsley, and clary. Of each half a handful, wash them clean, cut them small, and fry them with a little sweet butter. Then take the yolks of 3 or 4 eggs, beat them well together, and put them to the eggs. Fry them all together and eat them fasting every morning, with some sugar to take away the unsavoriness of the herbs. Some used to take only clary leaves and parsley washed not cut, or clary leaves alone, and pouring the yolks of the eggs upon them to fry them and eat them. That sounds absolutely disgusting. How would that help my back pain? See, that's the thing with all of those medical recipes from the era. You can tell they had no idea what they were doing, and it's such a scary thought to think that someone was probably suffering a spine condition, and all they could do would be like, have you tried egg yolks? An ointment to kill the worms in little children. Take oil of wormwood, oil of savine, and the powder of aloe cicatrina finely beaten. Mix them together, warm them, and anoint the belly therewith morning and evening, and this will kill the belly worms. For stomach worms, anoint the stomach with oil of wormwood and the belly with oil of sweet almonds. Probably didn't do much. For one, this sounds really funny. For one that pisses blood, it actually says pisseth. Take tautsein, sanguinary, and parsley, of each 1 handful. Stamp them together very small, and mix the herbs, juice, and all together with warm goat's milk, and drink a good draught thereof, fasting every morning. Oh, it's so horrifying to read these, because these are obviously pretty serious symptoms. Like, if someone pisseth blood, they would probably end up in a hospital these days, but back then it was like, best I can do is goat's milk. To cleanse the head and take the ache away. Again, one of the things that if I was living in the 17th century, I would probably be trying all the recipes, because I get headaches quite often. But this one honestly doesn't sound like it does much, because it's chew the root of pellitory of Spain, often in the mouth. So whenever it says some weird names, it's always some sort of a herb, like an old name for a herb. I don't know what pellitory of Spain exactly is. But the only way I can think it could work is maybe chewing would relax your jaw muscles a little bit in case you got migraines, but it really does sound pretty sad. Another one that I would personally, in 17th century, I would be very interested in, to take away the spots or red pimples of the face. Take half a pint of rainwater. Oh, hell no. I mean, okay, back then there was barely any pollution, was there? So maybe it was actually pretty clear. Take half a pint of rainwater and half a pint of good verjuice. Seethe it till it be half consumed. The whilst it boils, fill it up again. For a sudden bleeding at the nose, burn an eggshell in the fire till it be as black as a coal. Then beat it to a fine powder and let the party snuff it up into his nostrils. I need to know if it works. This one actually sounds plausible. Like, I 100% believe that if you snuffed a powdered eggshell, it might actually stop your nosebleed. It sounds reasonable, but I don't know the chemistry behind it. It probably is actually very bad for you, but it sounds like powder would maybe stick to the... I don't know. Am I tripping? Another one which sounds terrifying. It says to stop inward bleeding. And then it's only one line of recipe. And it says, drink the juice of neep and it will help you. So to me, it kind of sounds like we don't really know what to do about this one, but like, do this, it totally works. And a lot of those recipes, people are just like, yeah, that works for sure. By the way, I'm not reading some of these recipes because they're not very interesting to me, but especially the cooking ones, at least half of the recipes in those books is ideas on how to preserve food. And it's so interesting because I never thought about that it was a serious issue. Like if you were a housewife and you were trying to regularly cook meals, everything would spoil within minutes. So things like preserving fruit, preserving medication or oils, herbs, flowers, these were all serious concerns of a housewife that had limited resources. But moving on, the next book is called The Accomplished Lady's Delight. It's from 1675. And interestingly enough, there is another recipe on how to make snow cream. So we're gonna compare it to the previous one. Break the whites of 6 eggs, put thereto a little rose water, beat them well together with a bunch of feathers till they come perfectly to resemble snow. Then lay on the said snow in heaps upon other cream that is cold, which is made fit for the table. You may put under your cream in the bottom of the dish part of a penny loaf, and stick therein a branch of rosemary or bays, and fill your tree with the said snow to serve it up. So that sounds pretty similar. There is some bread, there is rosemary. So yeah, that's pretty much the same recipe, except here the bread and the rosemary is optional, and you can also substitute rosemary with bay leaf. Okay, this one just sounded funny. So the recipe is called To Make Washing Bowls. Take storax of both kinds, Benjamin, Calamus aromaticus, labdanum of each alike, and braid them to powder with cloves and orris, then beat them all with a sufficient quantity of soap, till it be stiff. Then with your hand work it like paste and make round balls thereof. So those were basically, that was basically soap. And that's what pisses me off when we talk about the past, is that we would be like, oh, you know what Jack Sparrow smelled like, or people didn't wash back then. They literally had recipes on how to make soap at home. There is like 10 different recipes on how to keep your teeth clean. There is like 10 different recipes on how to stop your breath from smelling. Maybe they didn't have the right tools to actually achieve that effect of like being clean, but at the same time, it's not like they didn't try. Like they obviously had noses. Oh, so there's a lot of recipes that are called plague water, which I'm assuming was the water that was supposed to make you immune to the plague, but it just sounds like they were just drinking polluted water. So this recipe is called Dr. Burgess Plague Water. Take 3 pints of muscadine and boil it in sage and rue. Of each a handful till a pint be wasted, then strain it, and set it over the fire again. Put thereto a dram of long pepper, ginger, and nutmeg, of each half an ounce being all bruised together. Then boil them a little, and put thereto half an ounce of andromachus. Treacle 3 drams of methridate, and a quarter of a pint of angelica water. Take a spoonful or 2 of this morning and evening. I have absolutely no idea what half of these ingredients are, but it's interesting that they did use spices for plague water, like pepper, ginger, nutmeg, which makes me think of those pomanders that were supposed to keep your air clean of the plague. That sounds like a similar reasoning here. Anyway, let's move on to like proper medicine. There is a section of the book that is called Physic and Surgery. For example, one of the recipes is for biting of a mad dog. Stamp large plantain and lay it to the grieved place, and it will cure the sore. Sure, Mary. All you need is a leaf, and the rabies will be gone in a minute. For the cramp is an interesting one, because I wonder if it refers to just muscle cramps in general, or menstrual cramps. It doesn't say, it just says, take oil of chamomile and fenugreek and anoint the place where the cramp is, and it helps. I love how confident they are in the recipes. I mean, slay. But I don't think it would do that much, though chamomile does sound pretty calming, but maybe not when applied through the skin. What's crazy to me is that even though they knew that some things were just so dangerous that there wasn't much you could do about it, there were still recipes for pretty serious medical conditions. Like there is a recipe for infection of the plague. So what happens if you get infected with the plague? Well, you could either die or you could use our special recipe and you would just be fine. So the recipe was thus: take a spoonful of running water, a spoonful of vinegar, a good quantity of treacle to the bigness of a hazelnut, temper all these together and heat it lukewarm and drink it every 4 and 20 hours. So they were like, honestly, no worries, no big deal. We all get plague sometimes. For the headache, interesting, a different technique in this one. Take rose cakes and stamp them very small in a mortar with a little ale and let them be dried by the fire on a tile sheared and lay it to the nape of the neck to bedward. Proved. It actually says proved in cursive at the very bottom of this recipe. But things being put at the nape of the neck are actually like a migraine remedy. So it looks like they knew the direction, maybe just like the wrong ingredients. Though I haven't actually used this. Maybe it actually worked and we just forgot this recipe. Who knows? Let's move on to the beauty department. Everyone in the 17th century obviously wanted to look good. So for all the ladies that were actually interested in improving their looks, there was the beauty section, which was called beautifying waters, oils, ointments, and powders to adorn and add loveliness to the face and body. It's interesting because it starts off with like multiple hair recipes. There is like 6 different recipes for hair growth, and then there's this to take away hair. So at first I thought it's gonna be like, oh, depilation, but it actually says take the juice of fumitory, mix it with gum arabic, then lay it on the place the hairs first plucked out by the roots, and it will never permit any more hair to grow on the place. Also, anoint your head with the juice of a glowworm stamped, and it has the same virtue. So it's actually head hair, which I find interesting because, like, did they pluck out their baby hair, or did they pluck out their foreheads, as we tend to believe? I just talked about how people actually wanted to be clean, and to prove this, there is a recipe, number 69 by the way, for stench under the armholes. First, pluck away the hairs of the armholes and wash them with white wine and rose water, wherein you have first boiled cassia lignum, and use it 3 or 4 times. What I find interesting is that they told the ladies to pluck away the hairs of the armholes. And there is this stereotype nowadays that the hair catches odor. So I wonder if that was to make washing the armpits easier, or if they actually removed hair under the armpits. To make teeth white and sound, take a quart of honey. Does not sound like a good teeth product. Take a quart of honey and as much vinegar and half so much white wine. Boil them together and wash your teeth therewith now and then. This sounds horrific. I'm no dentist, but it honestly does not sound good for you. It sounds like there is a lot of irritating ingredients in it, but also because it's alcohol and vinegar, maybe it was good in terms of like being an antiseptic product that you would use. Honestly, no idea. This is actually terrifying. So this recipe is to take away freckles in the face. Having freckles back then was not fashionable yet. It was, you wanted your skin and your face to be as smooth as possible. So they were not feeling good about being freckled. And there is this recipe that was supposed to make your freckles go away. And the recipe was anoint your face with oil of almonds and drink plantain water, or anoint your visage well and often with hare's blood. So they were basically like, if you want your freckles to go, the best thing you can do is just kill a rabbit, kill a hare, and then smear his dead body all over your face. And that should do it. It worked for me. Yeah, but in all seriousness, I really do appreciate how these books are clearly so female targeted. And then this one, for example, it has a whole separate angling section. It has a section on how to fish, and it has a whole section on how to prepare fish and how to clean meats. And when we think 17th century women, we probably think someone that's gonna faint in a second and that smells bad. But turns out they were clean, they had their bills paid, and they also knew how to clean fish. And they probably worked really hard. My only question is, who was the target demographic for these types of books? Because as we know, reading was not that common back then. So I'm thinking, if you were educated enough to read, would you want to clean your own fish, or would you have someone do it for you? Was that something that you would just tell your maid, like, oh, I just read this recipe for an almond milk, should we try it? Or were you actually a maid that could read and bought those books to educate herself on the recipes? I just find it really interesting. When I've read Samuel Pepys' diaries, there was a mention of his wife actually working with the maid, like doing laundry together or like cooking together when there was a big party coming. So it's not like those high class women were not involved in a household at all. But at the same time, I think these sorts of books would be more useful to the lower classes and whoever was actually responsible for all of the household duties. But yeah, overall, let me know if you're about to try any of the recipes, but I'm not going to be liable for anything that happens. I think half of these ingredients would not be easy to come by these days. So, but at the same time, they're still pretty natural. When you look at 19th century cosmetic or medical recipes, half of the ingredients is stuff that will actually make you radioactive nowadays. Whenever someone tries to recreate old recipes, they need to actually find safer substitutes for those ingredients. Whereas here, apart from the blood, a lot of it is just plants and herbs and fruits and vegetables. So it honestly does not sound that toxic. Though I would be skeptical about putting vinegar on my face, but maybe, who knows, maybe it actually does have healing properties. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll hear you in another episode. Bye!